Hello and welcome to the Storytelling for the Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Kanata, and this is the place we talk about all things expressive writing and other creative techniques, all with a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer thrown in. Buckle up and enjoy. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Storytelling for the Soul podcast. I am your host, Sarah Kanata, and as you've probably gleaned from the episode title already, today I'm going to be talking about what I've learned after living alone for the first time in my life recently. So just for a little bit of context, on the 20th of December, 2023, I packed up my life and moved into my own apartment to fly solo for the first time in my life. I've never really been or lived alone for an extended period. I did go to Malta by myself in my mid-20s, and I recall really loving that period or couple of weeks of my life. So I also should add that as a 36-year-old going on to 37 very, very soon, it's fair to say that moving out of home and finding my own place, my own sense of safety, support, and comfort in my own environment was well overdue. That is very likely an understatement, and I am sure many people listening to this will not understand why or how I even stayed at home for so long. But to be frank with you, it's just the way that my life has played out. I've never been in a serious relationship. I don't really have a massive pull towards having my own children. I'm just being extremely transparent with you. And yes, for those wondering, I did at times feel the stigma from others. And for anyone else out there who may be in a similar position, or even if you are a touch younger, I will tell you, do not Google anything related to living at home as an adult, because what you'll find will just make you feel pretty crappy about yourself. So look, it's all about societal perceptions and norms. I waited to move out until I felt like it was the right time for me. And yes, of course, money was also a factor. I'm sure almost everywhere now is extremely expensive to live. For those of you who are unaware, I live in Melbourne, Australia. Here in Australia, Melbourne's probably the second most expensive state. So a lot of factors went into staying at home for so long. But after a trip overseas with my mother in May 2023, where I had a lot of downtime and pondering that I wouldn't usually have. I mean, I tend to work pretty much on a 24/7 basis, but when you go away on holiday, and we happened to go on a river cruise, and it was basically one of those cruises where you have a lot of sailing time. So that meant that I had a lot of thinking time, and also many, many nights staring out into the river, the black sky, and looking at the moon, which is quite beautiful. And look, I'm very grateful for those memories, but during that trip, something within me really started telling me that it was time for a number of reasons. So personally, I think solo living is going to become even more common moving forward. I think we're already seeing that in a bunch of more mature people, obviously for various reasons. Perhaps they are widowed, perhaps they've been through a divorce, many, many, many factors. However, I do think that more and more, as people have more options and the stigma around being and living alone eases, I do feel like people will choose to be in their own space. And I do want to say that I understand as I talk about this, and I've actually written an article about this for Elephant Journal. So anyone who's interested, head over to elephantjournal.com. The article is titled 6 things I've learned after living alone for the first time. If you just jump onto the site and basically search for my name, you will find it. But basically, I just wanted to take you through some learnings and lessons over the last 6 months, maybe 7 months as I record this or so. If you are contemplating solo living, I highly encourage it. And here are some takeaways that maybe might just get you over the line. So first off, I've really never felt more confident in my ability to handle almost any situation that surfaces. And trust me, there's already been some sticky situations here. I am not at all handy. I'm a writer. I work in communications. Anything to do with building or fixing things is not really my area of expertise. So I've already encountered a couple of hairy situations since being in the apartment. So I moved in during summer. So December is summer here in Australia. And for some reason, couldn't open the door, which was, one of the doors that faced onto, I've got a little porch area, and I just couldn't open that door at all. So that was the first little hiccup. Then probably 3 or 4 months in, my bathroom before work randomly flooded one day. I'm laughing about it now, but I wasn't laughing about it at the time because it made one incredible mess all over the bathroom that I had to clean up. But what I didn't realize is that little shower drain actually lifts. And there was a bunch of stuff, I'm not going to go into what exactly it was because I think it was pretty gross, that was just stuck and preventing the water from going down the shower. So one of the big takeaways personally is stuff doesn't just miraculously go away. I did notice that the shower was gradually over maybe 1, 2, or 3 weeks, it tended to be flooding a little bit more every day. And I thought, maybe it will just magically go away. As it turns out, it didn't go away. So this is the thing. When you're all you've got and there's no one that you can call who can easily fix anything, you've basically just got to run with yourself. And you've got to trust yourself because there's no one else to bounce any decisions or thoughts off. You're all you've got. Now this next one is a massive plus for me. So I'm an introvert. I need a lot of time to recharge, especially after work. So after 8-10 hours of work, I really need the evenings to myself to recharge so that I'm ready to go for the next day. And same thing goes for the weekends as well. I'm sorry, I know that sounds uber boring because it basically means I spend all of my time either working or recharging, but that's just the way that it is. And I've recognized this within myself. Energy management is crucial. So I block off time to recharge. The other big thing that has really expanded this amount of mental space that I've noticed I now have is removing anything from my environment that detracts from my inner peace. So one big thing when I was living at home is that my parents used to have the TV on, the news channel, basically 24/7. Now, I used to ignore it, but inevitably if you're walking past the TV, or even at night, if you're just spending a couple of hours tuning out with the laptop, even though I'm listening to my own thing, taking in my own content, you still hear and see stuff. Personally, I find the news incredibly anxiety-inducing. So here in my home, the TV basically never comes on, besides if there is some sport in the weekend that I want to watch. So if you've listened to earlier podcasts, you'll know that I'm a massive Australian rules football, Essendon Bombers fan. So if the TV's coming on, that's where it's coming on. Or alternatively, if my parents visit, the TV also comes on. But otherwise, I don't have the TV on. I go with the theory that if anything major happens in the world or in Australia, I will find out somehow because I am pretty much online. I'm not going to say 24/7 because that would include while I'm sleeping, which is not the case. But I am online quite a lot. So eventually I'd find out what I need to find out. So this elimination of background noise, and I'll extend that in recent times just to anything really that I don't find adds positively to my life, whether it's Facebook pages I've been following, YouTube channels I've been following. I've been very mindful to clear space because I feel like energy really is everything in this world. And to attract in things that will add positively to your life, you really do need to take away anything that's causing you to feel anxious, stressed, annoyed, and so on. So let's talk about finances. Now, I get that money makes people uncomfortable. If anything, I would say this is the one negative of solo living, kind of. And I'm going to say kind of because obviously our society is really geared towards couples, if you think about it. I mean, trying to pay off a mortgage with one wage is a lot harder than with two wages. That's just common sense. So I personally believe money management should be taught in school. Here in Australia, it's not. People kind of have to find out the hard way. I had the very big benefit of starting my business. I want to say, I believe I was 27 or 28. And when you start a business, you really need to know your numbers because you need to make sure that you've got more coming in than going out. So that was really a blessing. And I remember that was really the first time that I understood anything to do with money and money management. So I think the flip side of things is that when you're alone, you also have a lot more, well, basically you have 100% say on where your money goes, where it doesn't go, budgeting, all that kind of stuff. I personally believe money is a habit. I see money as a relationship. I see it as neutral. I think we give it the tag of good or bad. We're living in a physical world, and realistically, that means that we need to be earning money to survive and thrive. And if this is jarring a little bit with you, because I know that people in the spiritual space especially tend to have some barriers around money and earning money and using our gifts to earn money. But the way that I see it is pretty simple. The more money I have, the more I can help others in various ways. So of course, that means making more money is advantageous. Now, this next one connects to the mental space point as well, but I just enjoy drumming to my own beat. What does that mean? It means I like going to bed when I want to go to bed. It means I like waking up when I want to wake up. I mean, within reason, of course, because I still have to go to work, which means I have to be online by 9 a.m. But everything in between is 100% up to me right now. So when I eat meals, there's no such thing as breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time. It's basically whenever I want to eat. If I'm having one of those nights, it does happen. I don't know if this is a creative person thing or a writer thing, but it does happen to me at times where I just can't sleep and I wake up at 3 a.m. and I've got a bunch of ideas racing in my mind. Living alone means that I don't have to be mindful of anyone else in the house and waking up anyone else, and I'll literally just write. And that just means this is typically in weekends because during the week, as I said, I have to be at work. I have to function at work as well. So this is all within reason, but I just love being able to go with the flow, really. And I feel like this has definitely boosted my creativity and self-expression levels. So the next point is about personal growth and self-care practices. I have found it so much easier to be doing things like meditation and journaling daily in my own space, on my own time. I don't have to wait for it to be quiet to meditate. I basically can journal whenever I want. I tend to journal before work as a starting point. I like doing a little bit of a gratitude journal, 3 to 5 really fast dot points, writing things down, but also feeling into what I'm writing down as well and giving thanks. I feel like that really frames my day. And it just makes me a little bit better equipped to be able to deal with anything that doesn't necessarily go to plan for the day. But just listening to my body clock and following natural cues has been incredibly nourishing. This has also led to me being less of a people pleaser. And I just think that this is because I have so much more downtime and time to think now, so much more time to myself to listen and understand my own thoughts, feelings, desires, what I want, what I don't want. I've never been more sure of who I am as a person, what I'm trying to create in my life, my business. I know exactly who I am. It is crystal clear. That also means that I've become better at saying no and being less of a people pleaser. And the final point that I want to cover here is that I'm in such a better mindset all round that I'm so much more open to life unfolding. I'm not going to say I never do it, but I don't find myself trying to control outcomes anywhere near as much as I used to. Everything feels like it's unfolding, almost like I'm reading a book and I'm on chapter 5 of 15, and I know that I don't want to jump from chapter 5 to chapter 10 because I'm going to miss out on a huge chunk of the book. I want to go through the book, have the adventure, enjoy the experience. I'm not pushing myself so hard to achieve or to be productive. In other words, life feels more like a steady river. It has its ebbs, it has its flows. And I think realistically, things happen throughout our day and we put the color and the meaning into them. So, for example, no one wants to start off their day with a flat tire. But if you have a flat tire, you've got some choices. You either see that flat tire as a sign that the rest of your day is going to be miserable, nothing good's going to happen, full stop. Or you see that tire as what it is. A flat tire, you'll deal with it in the moment because the present moment is all you have. And then you've got the rest of your day. And it's completely up to you how you show up for the rest of your day. So I'm going to leave it there. If you live alone, I'd love to hear from you, your experiences. If you don't currently live alone but have thought about it, I'd also love to hear your thoughts. And regardless, I'd just love to hear anything that you think after listening to this podcast. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode.